So, the first thing, we're going to talk about the linkage system and how you want to, use the ground, you want to use the links, and also you want to use the stopping effect. All right. Now, Vic Braden broke it down so well, a couple of weeks ago. My wife and I, we put a Vic Braden forehand video in. It was in DVD. My DVD player was still working. I haven't used it in a long time. And it was just amazing just to go back through it and just the reminders and the reinforcements. It's nothing better than watching it multiple times. And he said something which I've heard before and forgotten, but he really broke it down very well. So I'm just going to talk about the four links here. So if we take a look here, from your ankle through to your knee, let's see how my drawing goes here. So from your ankle to your knee, that's joint one. From your knee to your hip, we have link two, should I say. From your hip through to your shoulder, we hit link three. We don't count the head. And then the arm is link number four. Okay. So you want to think of it in that order, because when you coil your body, when you load, you coil from the ground upwards. And then when you uncoil, you coil from the ground upwards. All right. So those are the links there, to break it into its simplest form. All right. Now, if I take this away here, now you'll see. So, I'm moving into position here. Just a couple of things. You see how my hands and feet are connected. As my foot goes out, I begin to prepare. Number one mistake I see at all the clinics we do a lot of live clinics, live lessons, video analysis for people to send it in, is late preparation. It starts with the first initial move. All right. If you are late at contact, everything I'm sharing with you, everything James shared with you last week, in my experience, maybe 1% of people can get everything else to work, get the kinetic chain and get extension, but it's forced. Okay. Most people, the ball plays them, they're late, they cannot uncoil the body, and they cannot extend and swing inside out. All right. So early preparation is key. Now, to get in position here, I'm setting up out over this outside leg. All right. Always say it's as if you can hit everything off an open stance, and then you choose your stance. Okay. Sometimes you move forward, you don't do this, right? But you'll see here, I'm going to now choose to step into a neutral stance. Okay. So, or square stance, as some people refer to it. So now you'll see here, if I draw a line up from my toe, I have not stepped across. Now, that can happen, right? That can happen, but we want to eliminate the occurrence. A lot of people do this all the time. Okay. So you'll see there, I'm not crossing my feet here. Some would argue I'm a little bit closer. I'm a little bit semi in a neutral. Okay. This really allows the hips to clear, which is very important. All right. Now, if we continue to go through here, and you'll see, okay, let me clear this here. See how my body and racket start to go down together. All right. Now my racket, it drops into the slot position, the lowest part of the swing. Well, let's see. Probably goes a little bit lower than that, but it drops into the slot position. I still got to get into my slot. What happens from here, ideally the racket heads above the hand, we begin to push from the ground upwards. All right. From the ground upwards. So which link starts to rotate first? I feel like this is a trick question, or that I'm leading leading the witness. All right. Okay, let's see. So we'll answer all these questions towards the end. So which link pushes first? And there's a little bit of a delay here, but if you want to put in the chat there. All right. Okay. Nobody wants to put their hand up. Link one. Yes, Christopher Pollock. Good to see you, my man. Yep. So the first link. And, I've always taught people, drive your hip, but most importantly, drive your hip and core, this whole area like a corset, right? You don't want to just drive your hip because you're going to twist your lower back. However, what gets the hip moving is the first link. And, I had a gentleman come out, take a lesson, and he's a plays golf, and his golf instructor said, start with the back toe here. And I thought this was really interesting because a lot of people kind of struggle to engage the hip. So it got me thinking, and that's where I learn from my students. And I think, we learn every single day, right? Every time we're on the court, we read a book, we watch tennis, we teach, we play. And, he was like, no, it starts from the back toe. And it sounds kind of weird, but I've been using that. It really helps. It's been helping a lot of players. So really, I'm pushing through that toe, and you'll see what happens next. Okay, the body will start to rise. Okay, because I want to use the ground. And as it happens, you'll see how this knee is going to start to rotate forward here. Okay, so initiate through here. I'm actually pushing down here. Remember, when you push down the ground pushes back upon you. Opposite forces, right? We want to use the physics. I'll get into staying low. I know there can be questions about that. There's certainly a time. Okay, so now watch the knee here. So now as I push, watch how that knee starts to turn forward. Okay, see that? Now, what's going to happen is then going to bring the next link, all right, around. We'll see the hip start to move, and then we'll start to see the trunk start to move. Okay, now here's the key thing. I think there's a lot of confusion in tennis, and it's confusing when you watch tennis in regular speed. You don't slow it down, and you don't slow it down the right parts and look for certain things. It looks like there's a continuation, like they're hitting, and in my case, being right-handed, my entire right side just keeps rotating around. All right. But really what happens is a stopping effect. If you look at the best players in the world, go back to Federer, go back to Nadal, Djokovic, he opens a little earlier, but he still stops the links. Look at Senna, look at Alcaraz. They all do this, right? When they're looking to generate power, they got time. You better believe these guys are lifting, all right? So what happens now, we start to slow links down. So I slow this down, okay? And then this slows down or stops, and our contact, boom. The front leg ideally straightens at impact for maximum force. That's dependent on timing, ball height. What can happen now is the arm can continue accelerating forward. It translates to the target, right? So the body rotates, it stops, and then the swing translates to the target like a whip. Now, here's the thing. If you can use the linkage system, I lost my voice, you gain speed through the links, and we say more effortless power. There's a lot of talk about effortless power, but every time you stop a link or slow down a link, the preceding link, so if I slow down link 1, link 2 will accelerate approximately 1.5 times faster. So one stops and 2 keeps going. 2 stops, then 3 gains about 1.5 times the speed, and then that stops, and then the arm continues. So it's like this whipping effect. So everything just kind of catches up and then continues. A simple example, I move my hand like this, and if you can see me in the chat, if I stop my forearm right here, you see how my hand shoots forward. Same idea, okay? So we want to use that. And also when we use the lower body, okay, when we use the ground, we use our legs, and we rotate our hip and core, it takes stress off the arm joints. Very important, okay? So this is very important we do this. Often what happens, people don't rotate, they don't use the ground, and they overuse the upper body. Could cause injury to the arm, but also they over-rotate, okay? So see how I swing up to contact? If you just look from behind now, let's take a look at the rear view, okay? So come back again to the beginning. So you'll see, here's my hand, here's my racket tip, okay? I begin to, rotate forwards, upwards, and I shift my weight. And you'll see how as my hip starts to rotate, as I start to rotate, the racket then drops below the hand into the slot position. You see the knee will start to turn in. You'll see the hip, and then you'll see the trunk. Just give you a different perspective here. See that? There, there, there. See how the swing path goes away from the body? Now everything stops here. Okay. Eyes the hit. Our friends at the Billie Jean King eye coach, Lenny, okay, is huge on this. Prevents mishits, but also it helps stop the rotation with the front side of the body, right? Now what can happen is the swing translates and extends to the target, long hitting zone. Okay, so I have a greater margin for safety. I get true topspin. Also, the longer you send an object in a direction, the longer it can accelerate, the faster it's going to move. And then we get to this magic position here. You know, the hand's about shoulder height, and then the finish is inconsequential. You see the extension. In this case, I'm just catching over the shoulder because I'm demonstrating, right? Now you will see I'm a little bit around here at this point. You see with a lot of incoming speed, it's hard to completely stop everything, but just watch how still everything is through contact. All right. You also notice that my heel's off the ground. I'm using the ground. Okay. Now, another couple of questions come in, so I'm going to take a look at those. I also want to show you an open stance example. And, we'll talk about the pre-stretch because I know they came up. And then lastly, I'll just show you one example of when and why you may stay low. So let's just see here. Um, let's see. I think someone said Alker has his 10 forehands and Ben Shelton has one. The thing is, here's the big thing. When you're working on mechanics, you want to think about this. If you have you're working on your foundation, your fundamentals, you're working on your neutral rally ball, whether it be a forehand or a backhand. Okay, so your swing shape is such. If you look at the screen, whoopsie, it's more like circular this way. Okay, now if you're looking to defend, then you're going to get below the ball more, and you're going to swing at a steeper angle. If you're looking to attack, you still get below contact. You can be further into the court, showing your take back. Maybe not get as low, and you maybe extend a little bit more. Okay. Now, just some granular numbers. The study is done by Dr. Bruce Elliott, Reed, Crispo. They're talking about the angle of the swing, right? So, when you I had this written down for a second here. Flat. Flat means more offensive, right? It's still low to high. There's still some topspin. It's approximately a 25 to 30-degree angle. Okay. Topspin, I would say at neutral, you got that 35 to 45, and then you'll lob your defensive shot 50 to 70. All right. So the point is that, right now, when you go work on this, work on your neutral rally ball. If you have good fundamentals, then you can adjust the swing shape, right? How low you get the hand below the racket below contact, and how much you extend, the steepness of that slope. Okay, so that's where you see a variety of different shots. And pros, they play within a range of fundamental correctness, but they make adaptations to the swing, and they play with improvisation, but they play within a certain range of fundamentals. This is the key thing. All right. Now, let's go a little bit further on. Let's take a look at, actually, I want to show you something too. There's a lot of this going on where, and I think, maybe it's well-intentioned. Like, coaches are telling people to bring this foot all the way around and even face that way at the end. The problem is the court's this way, and the tennis court's less than 20 degrees wide. You can't go to the net. The best players in the world figure this out. I think you want to learn to stop the rotation, and then when you release your swing, your foot will probably, when you release your body, your foot probably comes around here. The more speed you have coming in, the further it may land in front. But I don't think this should be forced, but that's my personal opinion. All right. Okay. If you look at Federer, I've got videos of Federer. I can't post it here. Agassi, Burditch finishing just like this in a warm up.